My name is Beili Liu. I'm primarily an installation artist, and in my work I'm very much interested in process and material exploration. I'm also interested in investigating my cultural background and my cross-cultural experiences having moved from China to the United States. I think growing up, my two most, my two most passionate things are writing and art. And when I was a little kid, the skill of being able to draw something was really satisfying and really pleasurable for me to be able to just capture something with my hand with simple lines. I like the suggestive quality of drawing because you don't have to capture everything, yet you can present this object or this story. And I think my very beginning interest in art comes from drawing and comes from storytelling, similar as to in my writing, the idea of capturing a story in my words. And somehow those words are more interesting than like seeing something happen. Like I could manipulate the words, I could manipulate the line so that it has my influence and touch, therefore translated, it becomes something different. So starting from drawing, and I studied design actually in undergraduate school. And in graduate school I realized I really want to step away from the two-dimensional surface and step into space. And again, that comes back to what I mentioned earlier. In the village, as a little kid, you run around, you play with rocks, you play with sticks. You go into the river, try to catch fish, and you walk around the field. Everything's open, it's very vast and three-dimensional. It's very tactile, it's a lot of material. And I think that's when I realized that I want more. And that's when I started to work with installations. And that newfound freedom was very exciting. And there's also a time where I just moved to the country not very long ago. And a lot of experiences in my life I needed to process. And through installations I was able to look at that experience and capture it and translate it and made sense to me. So that's when I started working with installation. That was 15 years ago, a long time ago. Yeah. So, as an artist, I see us as messengers because I do feel like artists are very sensitive and they have these insights. They're probably the first people that perceive the cultural concerns, and they're trying to articulate in a way that's not through words, that's perhaps through something that's visual, that's perhaps through a certain kind of experience. And I think in my installation work I'm looking for that. In my 2D work I'm looking for recording and capturing the moment of chance, the moment of transformation. As you can see in my Airseed Mono piece, I think that's one of the examples. It's the interaction between ink and water. It's how they're physically being pushed around and being captured. And I'm looking at issues perhaps that's a lot broader than a subject or an item or object. I'm looking at change, perhaps destruction and creation, or rebirth, transformation, all at the same time. So I think that's what informs my installation work as well as my 2D work. And coming back to the artist as messenger idea, I feel like that perception we have is what fuels our creation. And our work is our vehicle to communicate with the viewer, to perhaps influence and take them to a space that's not in their everyday life, that's perhaps a transformative experience. So for my 2D work, I usually call them process drawings. In my studio, I experiment a lot with different materials and processes. And when the moment of something really surprising happens, that when I see there's a potential and that excites me, and that's usually the beginning of a project. So in this case, I was playing with Sumi ink and water and soap and trying to see what could happen on the page. part of the process is I had to use a lamp right on top of what I was trying to make, so that the heat of the lamp is baking the pigment dry onto the page. The original drawing was on Yupo paper, which is kind of a very sealed and smooth surface that allows the pigment to move around. And once it's heated and baked dry, it has these crisp lines. When you think of a soap bubble, it's something that's very fleeting and temporal. It would burst, it wouldn't leave anything behind but a puddle. But to be able to capture those precise fine lines of how the bubble is pushing the ink around to create these beautiful and intricate structure was very exciting to me. So that's sort of the process of making the drawings. It's the pushing and the baking, and it's a very tedious but very exciting action. So it was really a fun process to make, to be able to capture something that's not permanent. I feel like with the drawing there's a lot of excitement but a lot of limitation. One is the scale, because of the physical structure of the bubbles. It can only be so large. The idea of being able to enlarge it in a print was very exciting to me. And also I think the painterly quality of the ink. I think being able to translate that in a print. I was very curious to see as to what would happen. Is it going to be really as detailed? So part of me is looking at this whole project as a way of expanding my practice and to find a new process that really excited me. Absolutely, because I'm always interested in different methods, techniques, processes, and I love surprises. The idea of looking at the multiple layers being extracted from the drawing was really interesting to me, because when I see the drawing, I see one image. Seeing all the multiple layers was really a fun and surprising process. And at each layer it became a new drawing. And I think working on this project really gave me a chance to, one, understand printmaking a little bit more, but two, to also look at the drawing almost more three-dimensionally, more in space, more in layers. And what happens if all these layers are presented, then I'm looking at perhaps an installation in a way. So I really come back to full circle between the 2D and 3D work, and I'm thankful to have this experience, and I think I definitely will potentially use it in my future work. I absolutely loved working with the guys for the Serie project. I feel like I learned a lot. To me, now that as a printmaker, I'm very new to the process, and I thought how wonderful it is we can create something and give me a chance to really learn serigraphy and to work with printmakers who are professional, who are generous and kind to take this piece and translate it into a whole new piece of art. And I see this as a very collaborative project, and I feel like the end product is not only my work, but it's really the team's work. It's a wonderful, wonderful experience.